Thank you.
Speak up. In fact, my wife here in the room has seniority over everyone because her ancestors in 1860 moved just north of Keene a couple miles. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Chief. And so Sorelda Robinson and Thomas Hyrcanus Griffin settled this area. And he went on to become the first constable and the first tax collector in Cleburne, Texas, and formulated Cleburne. But ladies and gentlemen, as a citizen of the United States and as a citizen of Cleburne, Texas, and of Johnson County, what do I have to gain from this? Nothing. Because I've had to sue the CAD board, and I'm getting ready to do it again. Now, I put on the top of your thing, I don't want to just talk off of nothing. So if you look at the front page here, you'll see that there are problems. If you go down to, and I'm stating all the laws, the Texas Property Code, Chapter 23, and we're going to discuss 2301B and 2301E. Now, under that, it says, if you ignore mathematical formulas and models from which to achieve proper calculations. I sat with my wife not more than 2 weeks ago, and I asked Mr. Hespeth a question. Why are you not accepting cap rates anymore? And he, right to my face, said, oh, no, we do. We do. Well, I can testify under oath and with a lie detector, his agents were instructed not to accept them. And then I find out that for 10 years, a gentleman, cap rates got submitted, and he was $100,000 under everybody else. Now, do the math. For 12 years, $100,000 is $1.3 million. Now, put that times 3% that he got to save that nobody else got to save. Now, what is a cap rate? If you do business, you have to have a P&L, profit and loss statement. Well, a cap rate is the opportunity for us as citizens to evaluate what do we take in as rent and about a rent and what we're able to deduct. Now, if you'll look, I put a cap rate here on one of my properties. Now, what's interesting is, after being told that I couldn't, I did. Well, lo and behold, they did a cap rate. And so if you look at this poster, you'll see right here, they took a property of 5 duplexes, 10 units, that I rent. By the way, does anyone know what the average rent in America is right now? I'll tell you. The average rent in America today, average, through all the United States, it's $1,400 a month. Yeah. Now, I can tell you, you might need to know this, that an average one-bedroom apartment rents for between $950 to $1,100, depending on the size and the quality. A two-bedroom goes between $1,200 to $1,400, again, determining the size. And a 3-bedroom goes from $1,500 to $1,800. How do I know this? I know every good landlord in Cleburne, Texas, and here in Keene and around. So I do surveys. I check on that. I'm very diligent about knowing what's going on. Now, what is the average income of the people here in Johnson County? $18 to $23 an hour. Because the majority of them work at Walmart, D.C., Johnson Products, John Hardy, Wabash, which is Supreme. We've got the DC, we've got Technical Chemical, and on, okay? We've got the best environment for middle-class income. But now, one of the things that they do not let us calculate, and I'll get to that in a minute, is the economy. Now, if any of you think the economy right now in the United States is great, please raise your hand. It's not. Everyday people, look, I'm the son of a Danish immigrant that stood on a boat sailing into New York Harbor at the age of 5 and watched my dad struggle and work hard to live the American dream, as I have. Now, if you look at this page here that I put out, so they took a cap rate, right, that I gave them, but golly, all of a sudden the math changed. And the math changed to an illegal change. They only gave me 15%, if you'll look on that, and there's a difference between when I buy air conditioners, water heaters, and I do repairs because I take care of I'm not a slumlord, I'm one of the best landlords in Cleburne, Texas, and I'm proud of my properties. So you take that equation, instead of giving me 66,000, they only gave me 10. And that equation changes the subtotal from 74,000 to 131,000. And then if you do the cap rate, all of a sudden, where I should be worth 495,000, I'm up to 875,000 because of the math in the tax office. Now, interesting thing, I got a call from a landlord, Raymond Vasquez, this week. He was going in to settle his taxes. And guess what the lady told him? We don't take cap rates anymore. That's what it does. Whatever it takes to get what Mr. Hudspeth wants, okay? Now, let me go on. There's another cap rate there. So we're establishing the fact that the formulations, I want you to tell you, in the computers at this Johnson County cap are corrupt. They are totally corrupt because they have messed with the data, and the data is whatever. Now, we asked Mr. Hudspeth if he was proud of the fact that he was the 16th highest tax county in all of Texas. And he said, you bet. Now, isn't that something to be proud of? And think of your poor citizens in this community, in our community, that are suffering as a result of it. Now, who knows the percentage of home foreclosures currently in the state of Texas? Well, I'll tell you, 37% of people that wanted to live the American dream are being foreclosed on. Nationally, it's 43%. And people like BlackRock are just waiting for them to pick them up. Now, that covers pretty much the mathematical, okay? Now it says B, ignoring taxation shall be equal and uniform. If you'll look at this, there's nothing equal or uniform about this, ladies and gentlemen. And I've got it here on the big one. But let me just give you a couple examples. Down about 1, 2, 3, 4, there's a gentleman that has 26 properties, 28,000 square feet in those properties, and they value it at almost $4.2 million. And guess what he is being charged a square foot? $274. Now let me give you another example. So he's at $4.2 million. If you look down, there's a place in town that has 120 units and 100,000 square feet, and they're taxed the same value, but guess what? They're only paying $43 a square foot. 275, 43. See the game that's being played there? Let me give you one more example. The reason I'm standing before you tonight is one of your local citizens that about broke my heart. David Sinclair. He lives in this community. He's a retired police officer. And like the rest of us, just want to live our American dream. Well, he had his mother, who died, gave him 7 duplexes. They're not fancy. They don't have garages. One of them has, I think, 1 carport. They're 660 square feet, 1 bedrooms. And he rents them for $750. And when he went into the CAT office, you know what the lady told him? Raise your rents to $975. And right there, she broke the law. Now, I've had other people go in. I want to tell you, a school teacher. I love school teachers. I would have never learned English or graduated from high school had it not been for school teachers that took an interest in me, a little kid from Denmark. This school teacher works hard. She doesn't make enough. Our school teachers don't. Why do you think I do charities to help the teachers and the students? Her husband works hard, and they still can't make it. And when they looked at their tax bill, guess what the CAT office said? Had the guts to say, you listen, Miss Beeson, because this is the gentleman you like. He told her, get another job. Is this a world we want to live in? Are these the people we entrust to take care of the citizens in Johnson County? Now, I had to sue Mr. Hudspeth 2 years ago. That's what it takes. And there are 10 more lawsuits coming this year. And there's going to be a lot more. Now, I've covered point 2. And if you have any question on these, I'll be glad to talk to you about it. Now, I included something in here interesting about how we live the American dream. It's called capitalization. Let me summarize it to you. A gentleman like Fernando Rodriguez here, he starts a business. And what's his dream? To make a living for his family. Now, according to this capitalization form, you made an investment. Mr. Attorney, when you make an investment, do you expect a return on your investment? We all do. Yeah, that's the American dream. Well, they've taxed him so high, he's selling 4 of his businesses and losing his American dream. Is that the county we want to live in? Is this the tax office that we're proud of? No, we're not. And in a meeting, I'm going to summarize here. You can look at it. That Mr. Husbeth, I propose to you, has violated the laws of the Constitution of the United States, of the state of Texas. He does not use his own workbook called USPAP. If you were to stare him in the face and ask him the formula he uses, he'd have to make up something. Because it's all the roll of the dice. It's Las Vegas, geared to win for them and not for any of us in this room. And yes, in that last CAD board meeting, I asked them to fire him. I wouldn't hire him. And guess what? I asked for a second. 3 hands went up. And when I asked for a vote, 80 to 90 hands all went up in the air. Motion carried. And I've sent a letter, and the gentleman is here tonight, I'm not going to mention him, who's on the CAD board, to take this action, that we can rid ourselves of a tyrant that is not blessing, because under him, remember 2008? It's going to get worse than that, I promise you. And if I'm still alive in another 5 or 10 years, you can come and tell me that I was wrong. And I am proud enough and humble enough to eat my words. Thank you for your time tonight, and I hope that you will seriously consider, as Joshua did, having a vote of no confidence. I cannot reveal it, but there are 2 other cities that will be doing the same in Johnson County. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Svensson. All right, we have some other individuals that would like to speak during this agenda item. The next one is Mayor Kimball of Joshua.
Thank you, Mayor Parrish. There's going to be people that'll come and speak to you tonight that'll speak a lot more eloquently than I do. The reason Joshua decided to go with this vote of no confidence is because of our citizens. As a citizen of the city, as a citizen of this county, our CAD chief appraiser is not doing us the job he's supposed to do. You can look at all the numbers, you can hear all the things you want to hear, but the bottom line is he's just not doing it. I do not know Mr. Husbeth personally. From what I understand, he's a good man. He's just not doing his job. A lot of good people are out there that are in positions that just don't do their jobs. Being a government official, it's hard to get rid of them. We all know that. Especially when they are not elected. You have an unelected person that is making decisions that affect your everyday life. It affects what comes into this county. It affects the jobs that are available for people. We see all over this state, it's not just Johnson County, it's all over this state, the CAD system is broke. But it starts with the chief appraisers. We got a CAD board elected this last time around of citizens, of people that want to see the thing working right. They were hand-tied from the word go with the chief appraiser. That's why we also included one of the members that was still on the board as part of our vote of no confidence. We have good confidence in the new board, but to give a guy a $250,000 golden parachute if you fire him is outrageous, especially in Johnson County, for not doing his job. I ask that you support this vote of no confidence. I ask that you consider that if we can make a stand to get a chief appraiser that will start listening to the people of this county, I ask you to take the stand that we can make a difference, that we can start restoring sanity to this process. Tarrant County has made a move. They made a big move. Maximum 5%. Every other year evaluations, not every year. Give people a chance to get a little bit adjusted to the increases that you're laying on them. Let's stop people from having to sell their homes because they can't afford the taxes. Let's stop farms and ranches from having to be sold off because they can't afford the taxes. We have to start somewhere. This gives you a chance to be the voice for your citizens to say we have no confidence in this system and it needs to start being changed. I urge you to pass this resolution. If all the cities stand up and say we have no confidence, if the county stands up and says we have no confidence, the board has nowhere to go but to start making some changes to make life better in Johnson County. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mayor Kimball. All right. The next card that I received is from Craig Hunley. Thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening. My name is Craig Hundley, Mayor, Parish, and Council. I want to first thank all of you for serving your community and the citizens of Keene. It is frequently a thankless job, and it is not for everyone, so thank every one of you. Mayor, Parish, especially you, I'm going to brag on you a little. I see you at many events in and around Johnson County, trying to learn and collaborate with other leaders in Johnson County, and that is always a great thing. You're trying to listen, learn, and collaborate, and it shows. Thank you. Keene should be very proud of you. I am here on behalf of my grassroots group, and you're going to laugh a little bit, Eliminate Property Tax from the Texas Horse Barn. There's a long story behind it. Our group has, over the last few years, we have grown close to 10,000 members, and we network statewide. We have legislation in Austin. We have stuff going through Texas Ledge as we speak. We have 10,000 citizens who are scared, frustrated, and confused regarding what, for years, has been going on with the Central Appraisal District. I'm here today to convey what is by far the most important issue to the members of this local Johnson County grassroots group. Many of our members are from Keene. What I hear and see the most is that for many years, the day-to-day operations of the Central Appraisal District is very dysfunctional, it is deceptive, unfair, lacks transparency, it is incapable of effective communication and education with the taxpayers. The same taxpayers who are being forced from their homes, being forced to shutter their businesses, and that problem is getting worse every day. The chief appraiser had led the appraisal district for many years now. The outgoing board of directors set conditions that have significantly hampered the new board of directors. The outgoing CAD board took action that was in contrast to what the taxing entities and Johnson County voters supported. And they did it behind closed doors in collusion with the chief appraiser. They have proved a significant raise, contract extension, and what amounts to a golden parachute to protect and insulate the chief appraiser. The buck stops with the chief appraiser. This was a blatant slap in the face to every citizen and every taxing entity who worked day and night to effect change. He has earned a vote of no confidence. Now, yes, the new CAD board, under direction of Chairman Dwayne Goulding, is making headway and deserves a lot of credit, especially with their new community outreach program. But tonight's vote is your chance to stand side by side with your constituents, the taxpayers of Keene, and with Joshua, Godley, and Commissioners Court, who recently have taken positive action. Tonight you can join and say enough is enough. We have no confidence in the one common denominator. That common denominator is a chief appraiser, and tonight I encourage you to vote no confidence in his performance over his tenure, which began many years ago, and the actions of the outgoing board of directors took knowing that change was coming, which was a blatant disrespect to all of Johnson County citizens.
Thank you, Mr. Huntley. All right, the next card I have is from Greg Cooper. If you'll step forward, Mr. Cooper. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Thank you for serving the community, and I appreciate it. And like Mr. Huntley said, it's very thankless. I'm involved with a local nonprofit, and we do voter outreach, we do voter awareness, we do ballot awareness, and encourage people to vote and understand what's going on in their communities, and property tax is a very big issue. I've been privileged enough to host many grassroots groups, candidates in federal office, for candidates for federal office, state office, local offices, current elected officials, citizens, and more on a podcast that I've done over about the last close to 2 years. And without a doubt, the greatest issue is property taxes and CAD operations. The complicated and confusing system that we have and the damage the property system has caused is catastrophic. People's homes are held hostage with the threat of foreclosure for the entire time they own their homes. Can you imagine if everything that you purchased, regardless of whether you financed or paid cash for it, was you were forced to pay tax for the rest of the time you owned it? Your refrigerator, your couch, your dog, your sofa, your dining room table? Can you imagine that? Now, the reality of this broken system is that our most sacred possession is held hostage over our heads. That's our home. That's our home. Keene is a small, rural, quaint community. It's beautiful. A fair question would be, how many of your residents here have paid more in taxes than they paid for their homes? The ones that bought their homes in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Have they paid more for what their home cost, or have they paid more in taxes? Does that make any sense to you? How many of the same people were operating the Central Appraisal District in Johnson County? The same chief appraiser has been running the system for many, many, many years. Considering the last few months, we know more about the Central Appraisal District, property taxes, and the processes than ever before in the last few months. That is a telling sign that the leader, the CEO, the backbone of that organization has failed the citizens of Johnson County. Has he been transparent? Has he helped educate citizens on relief from property taxes? Has he helped citizens learn about all the possible exemptions and facilitate in an easy, user-friendly process so the citizens can take advantage of those? Has he helped citizens understand clearly the informal and formal process to appeal and challenge appraisals? He's been there for years. Are you aware that just recently they gave him a golden parachute, extended his contract behind closed doors? You should recuse yourself, ma'am, no offense. Hopefully you'll do the right thing. Mr. Dwayne Goulding has done a substantial amount of effort and research trying to get awareness to the communities and done that. He's done more in 6 months than that man's done since he's been there. He really has. Now, I look forward to when he comes up here to defend why he shouldn't have a vote of no confidence. I'm sure he's right behind me. Sure he is. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. All right, the next card I have is Fernando Rodriguez. Thank you, sir, for coming.
Hello, thanks so much for taking the time to listen to me. I guess I've been here several times. My name is Fernando Rodriguez. I'm a local business owner, and also represent a food bank, Johnson County Food Bank. So lately, as many of you know, property taxes are getting out of control. I'm not as professional as some of my guys back there, but I'm feeling it. I know it hurts. I know, and I speak on behalf of a lot of business people, even though if I'm not in Keene, whatever happens within our county, it affects every city in Johnson County. So lately, my properties have gone up again, anywhere from 70 to 250% higher than a previous year. And this is outrageous, guys. So I'm just asking this question while I'm here talking to y'all. How many people are sitting at their home, sitting at the dining table, figured out how they're gonna pay their property taxes? Either they're gonna pay their property taxes, or they're gonna buy food for their children, or they're gonna send their children to a college or somewhere. I mean, what's happening nowadays, with all the excessive amount of property taxes, unfortunately, we're killing the American dream. The American dream is to own your own home, free. But it's not free anymore, guys. It's not free anymore because it is outrageous. So I just want you to take into consideration a vote of no confidence on Mr. Chief of Appraisal, Jim Hospice. I don't know how many of you know, but he does not live in our county. And my question is, how can you take care of my county, and how can you take care of your city, of you guys sitting back there, if you don't even live here? That's impossible. How can you take pride in the city of Keene if you don't live here? How can this guy take pride in Johnson County if he does not live in Johnson County? That must tell you something. That must tell you something how bad it is to him. It must be so bad for him that in working so many years, he has not made a decision to move to Johnson County. But we are invested here. I'm invested. I have several business. And recently I have, unfortunately, and I say this unfortunately, I've been putting a lot of my properties for sale. I actually have 4, and I will be putting more properties out for sale because it's hard to catch up with this excessive amount of property taxes. I promise to do more for this community, but they tighten my hands down, to the point that either I'm gonna pay my property taxes or I'm gonna buy inventory. Either I'm gonna pay property taxes or I'm gonna buy these other items that I need. So, guys, this is a very serious situation. So, another one I want to tell you real quick. On June 28th, I received a bill, by the way, because it took him over a year to come back to me when I protested my property taxes, over a year. So accordingly to my bank, I was in default. I told my banker, well, I can't pay those taxes if I'm protesting them. Well, so finally he comes back, and they didn't lower the property taxes anyways. They probably lowered just a little bit. Then he sent me a bill on June 28th to be paid before the end of the month. So Monday was July 1st. I was already late, so I have to pay $1,200 of late fees. How is that? It seems like somebody's planning these. I don't know if they're doing it because I'm speaking out, but I just want to know how many other people is going exactly through the same situation that I'm going through. So I guess that's all I have to say, guys. Please take care of our future generation, our homeowners. How many young people are buying houses today, are afford to buy houses? The other day I went to a job site and I was talking to this gentleman, 25-year-old guy, and he said, Fernando, he said, out of all the guys in my school, me and my friend are the only ones that own property. But with the excessive amount of property taxes, I'm just gonna have to sell it and live with my parents. You know, that's a shame. That is a shame. You know, I was able to buy my first house when I was 20 years old, by the way. You know, I probably say that because I worked very hard to own what I have. And my question is, today, how many times more you have to work to pay for a home plus your property taxes? The property taxes today probably cost more than my home. So guys, all I ask is, I ask for your support, no confidence on our chief of appraisal. He needs to go. He definitely needs to go. I'm not paying over $250,000, whatever amount that is, to a guy that is not taking care of our Johnson County people. Sorry, but I'm not doing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Okay, the next speaker I have is John Wood. And he is the vice chairman of the CAD board.
Yes. Hello, and thanks for listening to me. My personal report, I'm not representing the entire CAD board, I'm not representing the government, anything like that. This is from me. And I promised you that when I was here the first time. So here's what we've got. The reason it took me a while to get here is it took me a while to figure out what in the heck's going on. Because it is very complex, and there's a bit of a tug of war going on between the state and the city or the counties, and it makes it more complex to try to figure out what to do. But we had a 3-point plan for education of the taxpayers, fiscal responsibility, and transparency. So here's what we have done so far. First, we've been saving the taxpayers' money. We have identified a bank account that the CAD board was paying $5,000 a month to hold our money. And we have gotten that reduced to $100, and hopefully we'll get it further down to where they're paying us some interest on our money that they hold. Other money-saving items have saved thousands upon thousands of dollars that were being needlessly used. And a very sharp ex-bank executive on the board beat me to the punch every time I said anything, so I'll give her credit for that. Let's see, taxpayer liaison. We have brought on a new taxpayer liaison. She's a lot more active than the previous taxpayer liaison, who was 96 years old, I believe. Rest his soul, he passed on not too long after he passed the torch. She is a bit more of an expense, but she's very engaged. She sees multiple taxpayers every single day, and she is so understated about her role and what she does. It's very hard for her to talk to from me sitting where in the seat that I am. But I'm going to be going with her to a tax hearing, and of course I can't speak there, but I want to know what's going on. I want to know every part of this process, and so does she, first person. She's been very helpful to a number of taxpayers, and that's really what her job is. And previously, the fellow who was in that role, his age limited him very much on how he could get out and interact with taxpayers. So I think that's a step forward. In transparency and in pleasing the people who give us the money. Because who gives us the money to operate all this? The taxpayers. That's simple. Let's see, what else? Her name is Ginger Allen. Her phone number is published to contact her directly on our new website. The website has been completely redone. It's been revamped and is constantly under review with the eyes of the CAD board to whether it pleases and helps the taxpayer. I'm currently involved with getting a little more information about our tax or our CAD board meetings. CAD board meeting attendance is up 7,500%, and that in itself speaks words to transparency. We do get some unpleasant gusts of wind from some of the people who attend, but that's to be expected, and it's taken note. And we try to get constructive work out of everything everyone says. That is a goal that has been stated by several of us, including the chairman. Let's see. Our next CAD board meeting is August 15th. If anyone would like to attend, you'll be there with the crowd, and you'll see how it works and how we work. And you can give us an evaluation then, and I would welcome that. Because we need to know how we're doing. We want to know how we're doing. Because ignorance is poison. If people don't know why you're taking their money, then they don't want to give you their money. I mean, it only makes sense. It only makes sense. Let's see. I believe that's kind of all I need to tell you at this moment. I hope that, again, you will come and join us, and I hope that you will ask questions actively of us so that you know that we're here for you and we're here for the taxpayers, because we owe our labor to you and to the people that pay us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. My next speaker is Don Beeson.
Mayor Fletcher's been holding his hand up to say something.
Oh, okay. Sure, go ahead.
I really wasn't going to say anything tonight, and I'm sympathetic to all of our citizens. I really am. I had a problem not understanding how the appraisal district worked, so I asked Mr. Husband to have lunch with me, and he explained it to me, and I was okay with the answers and everything. But I want to point out to you, Mayor, and the council, and I'll use this example of how we lean on our city manager. Our city managers are trained in running cities. We lean on them a lot. I have seen towns have serious problems because their city managers wasn't exactly following the line, the rule. I don't want to point the finger at the board itself, because I know some good Christian people on that. Don't know everybody on the board. And I feel like they've been held up because of one individual. I've asked Mr. Hudspeth to come out in front of public, explain yourself, and he wouldn't do it. I've asked him several times to come to the Rotary or come to the Lions, come to our council meetings, explain how things work, and I hadn't been able to get an answer. I'm really trying to be open-minded about this, but it's being hard to do right now. Now, it'll come to our council meeting on the 18th, and I'll have my decision made by then. But it's hard to support Mr. Husbeth when he won't stand up for himself. So, thank you for your time. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mayor Fletcher. How are you doing, Mr. Beeson?
Hello, my name's Don Beeson, live at 607 Woodlawn in Keene. It looks like everybody has to tell you who they are and what they've done to be recognized. I've lived in Keene for 50 years. I've been the city police chief for a while. I was volunteer fire chief. I was on the city council. I've been a police officer for 34 years. I've served 8 years on the commissioner's court, and I was a member of the Central Appraisal District Board for 12 years. I feel a lot like the little boy that had the rock and going up against the giant, but I consider most of these people my friends. Some I don't know, but the ones I do, I consider them friends. If you've noticed, this conversation has gone from appraisals, which the Central Appraisal District, and by the way, sir, if I say something wrong, you have my permission to interrupt me, please, okay? This conversation has gone from the Central Appraisal District Board, whose responsibility is to appraise homes in the way that the legislature has deemed that they appraise houses, to the word taxes. The last couple of people have talked about taxes. And this gentleman here doesn't even know what Jim Husbis looks like, so he really needs to meet him so he can, before he criticizes him. But the taxes are totally separate. You, ladies and gentlemen, there pass taxes. Now, you use the numbers given to you by the Central Appraisal District Board to estimate how much revenue you'll receive from taxes, but you're free anytime you want to raise taxes or lower taxes at the proper time, of course, and when you do budgets. So don't blame the Central Appraisal District on increased taxes, because they don't pass taxes. They just evaluate homes. Now, there's a book, it's already been alluded to, called the Texas Property Code. I believe that's the name of it, that comes out every 2 years after the legislature meets. That's basically the Bible for Central Appraisal Districts. And a little history on the Central Appraisal Districts. At one time, every tax entity had to have their own appraiser. So in our case here in Keene, you had the ISD, the city of Keene, the county, the ISD, whoever was collecting taxes came in and appraised your house. And those appraisals didn't jive a lot of the times and had to be negotiated out. You may be paying taxes on one price to one entity and another price to somebody else. So the legislature attempted to correct that. I'm not sure when that happened, a long time ago, back in the 70s, I think. By creating a central appraisal boards, and all of the taxing entities agreed at that time to take those numbers that they were furnished by the Central Appraisal District Boards. They're regulated by basically the legislature gave the comptroller's office the responsibility of undertaking that thankless job. They write the book. They do the audits. Every 2 years, the homes have to be appraised. And there has an appraisal value placed on those homes. Again, you don't have to go by anything. You can do whatever you want to do about up or down the taxes. So Central Appraisal District Board only furnishes the numbers of what homes are worth. And the book requires that they be current market value. Anybody that does less than that is subject to some sort of action. There's several different actions. Now, as spoken to, the Tarrant County Board has decided to cap it at 5. We'll see what happens in that case. It hasn't been adjudicated, and it really hasn't been passed yet. It's still yet to be on the agenda to be passed. But they have a provision in there that if it goes as high as 10, can go as high as 10 if certain things are done and certain things are met. But we'll have to wait and see what legal action is taken, because the state, I think, would supersede the local authority as far as setting caps on taxes. I'm not sure about that. I wish we didn't have any property taxes. I wish they were real low, because I pay a big chunk of money too. But somebody, and nobody, has stepped up to the plate to say how we would run another revenue source other than property taxes. Now, Texas passed a constitutional amendment. We'll never have income taxes. Sales taxes are going to be different too. That's going to be difficult. Sales taxes are raised a lot and expanded. Most states who don't have big property taxes have income taxes and increased sales taxes. Somebody's going to have to distribute that. Keene will never have enough sales tax to take in place of property tax. Neither will probably Venus or Grandview. And I doubt very seriously, he's a good guy, but if the mayor Fetcher back there is going to want us to take part of the sales tax from Burleson to come down here and run Keene, I just don't think it's possible. You've heard all kinds of things said about the Central Appraisal District. It's unfortunate that this was planned and nobody from Central Appraisal District was invited to speak on their own, represent themselves. You may or you may not have heard the truth about everything. Several of these gentlemen I know were here a couple of months ago, and they said, if you'll elect us to the Central Appraisal District Board of Directors, we'll change all this and straighten this mess up. Well, they're here tonight telling you, we can't do that, but if you vote no confidence, maybe we can do something about it then. It's a little bit different tune. I knew, I was on the board at the time, and by the way, I was on the board that gave Mr. Husbis the contract. We have always negotiated the contract in closed session, and recently, you had a closed session to talk about the city manager. I think that's the way you do things. We came back in public, made the motion and passed it to increase the salary. And the reason we did that, we had done a salary survey of what other Central Appraisal Districts make and what the directors make and what benefits they have. And we're still below, Johnson County is still below some of those. They have a little over 300,000, 300,500, I think it is, accounts that they have to monitor every year and give you that data. So it's a big job, and Johnson County has grown like crazy. And I took some notes of the day off, I'm not even gonna read them, but I took some notes off of online, and I think the home prices in Texas have increased 45% in the last 5 years. So if you're raising your tax rates off of what home prices are or what they're worth, you're gonna raise taxes. Or you're gonna collect more money, that's for sure. You're gonna do something if you don't decrease taxes. So before we go changing horses in the middle of the stream, we need to find something else that replaces it. And I doubt very seriously if any licensed person that has the credentials to run a Central Appraisal District is gonna be able to come in here and do anything different than what the state tells them to do and keep their license. It may take a while for that to take place and they'll lose it, but they'll eventually lose it. So nobody's gonna come in here and say, hey, I don't care what the state tells me to do, I'm gonna do what I wanna do and be successful. That's not gonna happen. So anyway, I had a lot of other things to say. Obviously, you're not keeping time because I know some people went way over 10 minutes. But I would ask you this, before you have to take a vote, and if you feel it necessary, you have Mr. Husbis here. Have him and let you ask him questions, and I hope you're taking notes, and see if it's just exactly as it's painted. If it's different than that, then let him explain why. If it's not, well, then he'll have to pay whatever the price is for not being honest and upfront. I found him to be an honest Christian person the 12 years I was down there. And the board of directors can only operate the financials of the district. They cannot interfere with what evaluations are, and I think the board members here will tell you that that's the truth. They were going to do that, but they found out when they got in there, as we all do when we do something different, that things are a little bit different once you get in the middle and start doing things. So anyway, my appeal to you, if you're going to have to do that, if you're going to have to take a vote, wait and do it and let Mr. Husbis come here himself and answer questions and see if what you're being said is righteous or if there's a little bit different story to that. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Beeson. All right, Ms. Gillen, I saw your hand up. Would you like to step forward? Council, if you're okay with allowing Ms. Gillen to speak without a yellow card filled out, I'll let her speak.
I didn't know I wanted to speak, so I would have put a yellow card. Mayor, council, I've been listening to all this, and something that really sticks out to me is that there's nobody here to defend Mr. Hudspeth. I don't know him. I don't know him at all. I pay property taxes too. My property taxes are very high. The one that kills me the most is the school taxes. The school taxes eat your lunch. The other taxes helps our city. So I don't mind paying it, and I pay it when I need to. I pay it all the time. I don't want to go to jail, but anyway. The questions that I have is that Mr. Hudspeth, our mayor needs to invite him to come here and spend an hour explaining what he has done, what the CAD really expects of us, and how this all works. Because taking a bunch of memos or whatever from the people that come up here he's not got a chance to defend himself. And if he can't, maybe someone else can, maybe his attorney or something. But I just feel like you need both sides before you make a decision like this right here, too. And who does this group have that they want to replace him with? We haven't heard that. You get rid of him, who is going to be in there then? Are you going to like him or her or whatever? You know, it would be nice to know that. And also, sir, I think it was you. You made a comment to our councilwoman that was very rude. And I don't appreciate that, you coming into our city and insulting our council.
I just felt someone related to somebody with the past should
But that
consider
doesn't,
recusing.
but that doesn't
That's
matter. You can be rude to me all you want to, but not my city council people.
I'm sorry you felt it was rude.
No, I'm just saying.
All right. Ms. Gillen, under the rules of our order and procedure, you
Yes,
would
I
be
know.
addressing the chair and not individual people.
Okay, that's fine. But he did insult our council person, and somebody should have said something about it. That's inappropriate for him to do that.
I understand, ma'am, but that's a violation of our rules in order to point that
Okay.
out.
Okay, I stand corrected. And then the other one was, well, I guess I got it because I wanted to know who they have that they are going to try to replace him with and what that person's credentials are. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gillen. All right, Mr. Wood, would you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to beg a pardon of the council. I forgot to say that we have a presentation.
Go ahead and step forward to the podium.
Gladly. I wanted to apologize for not mentioning that we have a presentation that has been vetted by the chief appraiser that talks about what the CAD board does, what the tax operations are as if you want to contest what your taxes are, have been given to you. So if you want to do a protest, how that works and the best way to go about it. So there really is an art to doing it, and a lot of people have no idea. They don't know where to look. So this presentation is available. There are two of us that are trained to do it, and it is up to date as of yesterday. So if anyone ever wants to visit on that and wants us to come and present it, we will be there gladly. Okay?
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Wood. All right, Mr. Schramm, did you want to speak? Council, if there's no objection, I'll allow Mr. Schramm to speak without filling out a yellow card. If you'll state your name and address for the record.
Wes Schramm, 1002 West 4th Street in Keene here. I don't know much about Mr. Husbeth, other than I do get taxes. The thing that I wanted to point out, I'm going to be 75 this month, and I'm going to have to continue working to make my mortgage payment and my insurance and taxes. By the way, my insurance and taxes are more than my mortgage payment on a home that I purchased 3 years ago, which is pretty drastic. 2 years ago, my taxes went up 36%, and this last year, they were up 62%, and I'm having a tough time figuring out how I'm going to make this happen without selling my home and moving into a little apartment somewhere, which is just a waste of money because there's no place to buy anymore. Property taxes have gone up so much and property values have gone up so much that it's really out of reach for the majority of the people. As a realtor, I see this all the time. People are not able to purchase their home, and it's a matter of that. Now, I'm going to go one other direction. When I go visit my family in Canada, they have what's called a GST, which is Goods and Services Tax. That pays for everything that we enjoy, everything they enjoy. And we've got to pay for our first responders, for all of our city services, everything that goes along with it, including everything in our state. And I would like to see a goods and services tax, which we're calling value-added tax. I know that's been in the making. I am really on board for a value-added tax and get rid of the property taxes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Crum. All right, you gentlemen back there would like to come forward? If you'll step to the podium and state your name and address. Thank you, sir.
My name's Larry Trammell. I live at 4109 County Road 707, and I am one of the new elected CAD board members. John Wood has already represented the CAD board, and I didn't really come here tonight to talk or to represent the CAD board in any way. But I've heard a few things. I want to make sure that you're aware of some things. You know, one of the things that I ran on to be elected to the CAD board was I want to eliminate property taxes, not just reduce them. I want to eliminate them. And I'm working with Craig Hundley and his group, and there is a plan to do that. And I think somebody mentioned that, well, they didn't know how we were going to be able to fund the schools and all that. There is a plan. Craig Hundley has a plan with either a value-added tax or another sales tax. And so we do have a plan in place to be able to do that. So, number one, I want to shut it down. I don't want there to be any property taxes. I want you to know that the very first thing I did when I sat down on that board a few weeks ago was I demanded that we put on the next agenda that we openly discuss the possibility of doing a 2-year or 3-year assessment instead of doing it every year. And you've heard that Tarrant County's trying to do, some of that stuff. So I demanded we do that. And I also demanded, because of some of the folks that are here, that we talk about the cap rate. People aren't really familiar with the way the property tax system works and the way their properties are assessed and all that. And John mentioned to you, we have a presentation that we can give to people and help explain all of that to you. So the last thing I want to tell you is one of the things I personally took up when I joined this board was I was going to go back, and I am doing this already. I'm going back. I have pulled all of the documents for the salary contract that we have with Mr. Hudspeth, the chief appraiser. And in fact, I've pulled his for the last several years so I could kind of see what's been happening over the years. And what I'm doing, I ran a huge business. I have hired thousands of people. And so I am doing a salary survey to look at what we should be paying chief appraisers, because I'm not familiar with or I hadn't been familiar with chief appraisers. So I'm going in and I will be able to provide a report that says this is what we should be paying a chief appraiser. And then we'll compare it to what he's gotten, and we'll make decisions from that point. Now, unfortunately, there in that contract there is a 12-month severance clause in the contract, and I'm a contracts professional. I can tell you it's written well, and he can enforce it. So, if we cut this guy loose, we're going to be giving a great big huge check. And again, what I want to make sure of, though, is if we have to bring in somebody behind him, are we going to have to pay them just as much or more or whatever? But I will figure that out, and the people of Johnson County have asked me to come here and sit on that board and do that. So I am going to do that. And the other thing I will say, I have talked to the chief appraiser, and I said, I'm your boss. I'm on the CAD board. We hire the chief appraiser. And I know there are laws that you have to abide by. I know, I've read them now. So I know what those laws are. But I said, I need from you a commitment from now forward that you will appraise the properties in this county at the lowest value that you can support within the law. And that's what I demand. So we're going to be working on those kind of things, going forward, and I just wanted you guys to be aware of it. Okay? I apologize for my deportment tonight. I didn't think I'd be speaking.
If you'll state your name and address for the record.
Yes, ma'am. My name's James Brown, Johnson County resident since 1980, and live here in Cleburne. First, I want to say that every time I'm a landlord and a private lender, and I've been a homeowner for many, many years. Every time I've dealt with Jim Hudspeth's office, I've gotten nothing but quality service. I did have an opportunity to meet with him and sat down with him a couple months ago for about 2 hours. And he's a very kind, nice gentleman, and his staff is very well trained and very responsive. So I've been very pleased with that. The tax system in Texas is just, the property tax system is completely broke. And I think that the citizens who are being impacted by it most are the middle class, and we're just getting clobbered. We're fed up with Washington clobbering us, we're fed up with the state clobbering us, and we're fed up with our local people clobbering us, okay? I want to, it's the middle class. I want to just give you an example. One of my properties, okay, this is just one of my rental properties. It's an average 322 home. Its total living area is 1,731 square feet. The house itself is 1,203 square feet. Since 2018, this property has gone from $133,000 up to $306,000. Okay? I pass those costs on to my tenants. I explain to them, look, I have to make a profit. If I can't make a decent return on my money, I'll sell the property and I'll lend the money out because I know how much I can make when I lend it out, okay? And where my frustration comes in with Johnson County Appraisal District is I have gone and I have protested values. I do it every year or every other year. And in the past 10 years, I have brought up this property that I'm fixing to describe to you, okay? The property was featured in a magazine back in 2013 as the largest house in Johnson County, okay? It is 13,791 square feet of living area. I have the article here, and I'll be happy to give it to you, Ms. Parrish, if you'd like it, and you can have all these documents, okay? But what's most frustrating is since 2018, remember mine went from 133 to 306, more than doubled. Since 2018, this property was on the appraisal roll at $2,091,000. Guess what it's shot up to? A staggering $2,097,000. $6,000 increase. Mr. Beeson, I believe, said that we've had a 45% increase in residential property in the last 5 years. And I've presented this to the ARB repeatedly. I've given the ARB copies of the magazine article. I've given them the paperwork. They tell me, this is not pertinent to your case. And I contradict them and say, certainly it is, because when everybody is not paying their fair share in Johnson County, it puts an undue burden on those of us that are. Somebody's having to make up for the lack of increase that this guy's experiencing, okay? Let me give you another one of a house that's right down the street from this guy, okay? Total living area, 8,167 square feet. Value in 2018, $962,000. This one shot up to a staggering $992,000. $30,000 increase on over a 6-year time span on over 8,000 square foot house. Again, these have been brought up repeatedly, okay? If the chief appraiser, and this is not a personal attack on Jim Hudspeth, but if the chief appraiser was doing his job, somebody would be running an audit, okay, on what properties have not gone up in the last 10 years. Why haven't they gone up? I have verbally accused the appraisal review board of showing favoritism and accepting kickbacks. And they get highly offended, but every year when I go back, nothing's changed. Nothing's changed, okay? If values, and I spoke with somebody just last week from Jim's office and brought this property up. And she gave me every excuse in the book why they couldn't go up. Well, we can't do comps because there's not any other 15,000 square foot houses in the area. I said, well, raise it and make that guy defend why it shouldn't go up. I mean, use $1 per square foot. Use something. Use the fact that real estate everywhere in Texas has gone up. And it's just frustrating when there's obvious favoritism being shown, and it's been pointed out, and it's continued to allow it to exist. So, you know, again, this isn't a personal attack on Jim or anybody at the Johnson County Appraisal District. I don't know who we could get in there. I think the people are fed up, and we're willing to turn this thing upside down because Austin ain't listening to us. They don't want to, you know, and my fear is this, okay? In about 7 to 10 years, this is what I fear. That once BlackRock and Vanguard and all these freaking corporations own all the single-family residentials, or about 80% of them in Texas, then our legislators are going to go, well, you know, consumers, we've been listening to you. We're going to eliminate property taxes now. Okay? And we're going to come out with just a state income tax, okay? It's messed up, and the people are willing to break it. I don't know if the next person that comes in will be any better. I know there's certain laws they have to adhere to, but the people were fed up. We are fed up. We're fed up with supporting a broken system. So thank you for your time. I appreciate everybody's service, and God bless you.
Thank you.
Can I say one other thing? He mentioned something. Appraisal Review Board, y'all know what Appraisal Review Board is? That's where you take, the first place you take your complaint to. That's nominated, that's appointed by the directors, correct, of the Central Appraisal Board. For years, the Central Appraisal District's complained, because that does look like it's certainly one-sided, doesn't it? So, believe it or not, Austin passed a law that made the district judge, the administrative district judge, I believe is the title he has, do that appointment. Would you believe it? 2 years later, they changed it back to the Central Appraisal District Boards because the judges didn't like it either. But it doesn't seem, and now we're way off subject, but it doesn't seem right that the appraisal board appoints those folks sitting on that. appraisal review committee. And you're right on that 100%. That always bothered me, but the district judges had more power than we did, so they got rid of it in 2 years.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Brown and Mr. Beeson.
Since Mr. Beeson, to caveat off what this gentleman said about property values, he's 100% correct. I'm a 100% disabled veteran. I don't pay $1 in property tax, not $1. Texas blesses me. I bought a $699,000 house 3 years ago. It was featured on My Lottery Dream Home. In 3 years, how much do you think my property's gone up? It was tore down to the studs, rebuilt, featured on My Lottery Dream Home, $699,000. How much do you think it's gone up? Now remember, they cannot get $1 of tax from me. 3 years, my property has gone up $7,000. When I asked Mr. Hudspeth about this, Mr. Beeson, I speak at many CAD board meetings, so I'll shake your hand next time I see you there. Yes, sir. I asked Mr. Hudspeth about this 2 months ago. He told me to get back to me and asked me why. And my question was, since you can't get more from me, do you artificially inflate other people's? Because when the state comes in and audits this, they audit the county as a whole. They don't audit your property, your property, your property, your property. They audit the whole property. So if they keep mine low because they can't get more money, it allows them to inflate other people's so they can. This gentleman's right on what they're doing with this.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. You'll state your name for the record.
Yes, ma'am.
Address.
Steve Nunley, Johnson County resident. Thank you guys for allowing me to speak here this evening. My background is Soil Conservation Service, and then from there, Semiconductor Division, Texas Instruments. Recently, I retired as pilot instructor, American Airlines, and now I bale hay. Sorry, but I didn't get dressed up. I just got off a John Deere tractor. So, so with that introduction, I'm a working man. But what I'm concerned about, and this is kind of a different angle on this, is tax evasion and cover-ups. And it's happening here in this tax appraisal district. By way of example, approximately 4 years ago, there was a gentleman that started a non-permitted, illegal, commercial pit mine quarry. He attempted to. There are a lot of neighbors that kind of took notice of this. For my part, I did call the Central Appraisal District, and I found that it was a struggle to get them interested because, in this case, this individual wanted to continue to claim an agricultural exemption while operating commercially. Finally got the appraisal district to toe the line. And they did enforce the law, and I commend them for that. However, fast forward 4 years. The amount of illegal, non-permitted commercial pit mine quarries in this state has mushroomed, has proliferated tremendously over the past 4 years. I know that for a fact. Talk to TxDOT, and they'll tell you. So, at the latest CAD board meeting, I handed out Google Earth maps showing recently started or in progress illegal pit mine quarries, with the expectation that the CAD board would follow up on, not the CAD board, but the appraisal district. Jim Hudspeth did receive 3 of these copies, and they were labeled with addresses. Now, whenever you expose someone doing illegal activity and continuing to operate something commercially and claim an ag exemption, you will get retaliation. In this case, the retaliation I've received was a lot of harassment, false imprisonment, and a bullet in my barn. I ran this by the Texas Highway Patrol Department, 4 state troopers, and they were not amused with this kind of behavior. It took a while to get the Johnson County Sheriff Department interested in my situation, even to come out, even when I gave them the evidence. But under the pressure of my attorney, they finally did. However, when we have a TxDOT state inspector for the Pit, Mine, and Quarry Division that comes to town, and he requests an escort due to the fact that he had already vetted this particular person or persons, and that they had been very acrimonious, threatening, and so forth. He felt like for his personal safety, and this inspector shared with me, he was refused by the Johnson County Sheriff Department for a deputy sheriff escort. Could that be called deep state, the good old boy system? I think it could be. And I may be retaliated against for even saying this, but it's the truth, and that's what counts. That's what we're dealing with. Fast forward, today, again, and several neighbors have noticed, there's another something going on that seems to be a little bit under the radar as far as another one of these illegal pit, mine, quarry, whatever. And the individual that owns this property called me up the other day and a little bit acrimonious, but he said, I'm going to put in a trailer home park. I said, well, okay, I hope you got that permitted through the Johnson County Development Board. Oh, I did. Okay, I'm fine with that. But then, and I'm going to be digging a stock tank and selling dirt. Well, wait a minute. It's either a stock tank or it's a legal commercial pit, mine, quarry. That requires a permit from the state, TxDOT, Pit, Mine, and Quarry Division. It requires an MSHA mine ID. You have to be bonded. You have to be insured. You are subject to inspections. You have to train your people, and the list goes on and on. So today, the other parties have submitted their concerns by filing open record requests about this matter, about these 2 separate matters with the Johnson County Development Board, and they seem to be somewhat receptive to at least taking the request. However, when I called the Johnson County Central Appraisal District today, I was given the royal runaround. Now, let me say this. Leadership starts from the top, and then it drifts down to the bottom. That's where the standard's set. You got a high standard, it's at the top, and then it permeates down. That's just common sense. This individual talked over me, very rude, tried to contradict everything that I was sharing in spite of the fact that I said, look, I have experience building these things, designing these things, and so forth. You know, I have a good background on this. And by the way, if it's a stock tank, you take what you dig out to build the stock tank, to build the dam, the spillway, and then to set the environment to where it all drains in. But yet I was, if we get into this and this, and then she happened to figure out who I was talking about. He's been telling me it's just a neighbor problem. It's just, no. Somebody that fire a bullet inside of your barn, that's a little more serious than a neighbor problem. Somebody that'll falsely imprison you in your driveway, that's about something that they have no business. I'm just saying retaliation does exist when you stand up for stuff like this. Now, I'll just say I'm part Indian. I'm from Oklahoma, and I'm not afraid. It's just that simple. So I want to go on record to say this. You know, when it comes to ethics and personal service, when I have to call 3 times and disconnected and whatever else with the Central Appraisal District to get the email addresses of Jim Husbeth and 2 other employees there, and I'm kind of giving the runaround. And then even in the conversation, you know, this particular person kept making excuses and rationalizing this and say, well, if we go out there and inspect, and oh, by the way, since they didn't set up shop and, you know, the 1st of January and all these, in other words, the typical rationalization, marginalization, minimalization, and justification steps. I don't buy that BS, period. But given the runaround and the goat rope, if you will, I didn't get a good sense that the law was being enforced. And I said, well, we can't shut them down. I said, no, I agree. But you can enforce the tax law. And I was given the runaround. Well, if we do this, then we've got to go to every farm stock tank and tax them commercially. I said, no. I said, you're missing the whole point. I said, the whole point is the dirt is being dug, the aggregate is being dug to sell commercially, and they don't have a mine ID. They're illegal. That's the whole point. And they never could quite get it. I conclude in saying this: who are they covering for? Why are they covering for them? Why are they turning their head the other way and granting exclusions or favoritisms or double standards? By way of example, we have 3 pits in this county. Rick Simpson, Simpson's Pit and Gravel, he's got a mine ID. Chuck Arnold, Arnold's, a rattler, okay, mine ID. Mike Arnold, got a mine ID, and they do all it legal. But I'm having difficulty getting local government, and I would say this county does have a history of good old boy system and corruption. That needs to change. And it can start with you guys. It's your choice. It's your city. It's your county, but it's my county too. Thank you guys for listening to me, and I appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just need a second to kind of clarify a couple of things, please. By the way, Mr. David Sinclair is here. He's sitting right back there somewhere. I saw him, yeah. So, we talked about his duplexes that are overtaxed. He's a retired guy, and they tax him so high that he and his wife had to go borrow money to pay their taxes. Isn't this a great system of investment and return? Now, I don't want to be indifferent here, but let's tell the truth. I have a gentleman that was on the same CAD board with Mr. Beeson, and he couldn't help but spill his beans to me of saying, you won't believe what we did. There's a new CAD board coming in, and we went into closed session, and we got him a new contract and $250,000 a year, and boy, just watch if they try to fire him. That's the truth. And I know who he is, and if you need him to come and swear or testify, he will do it. Now, my next point. There's a gentleman in here who spoke to you, and the reason that they asked Ms. Beeson to recuse herself, because this gentleman has a property next to her son that went to $800,000. And because he found out that Don Beeson Jr., taxes have been frozen for the last 11 years at $276,000 on that property. This gentleman was up at $805,000, similar. But when he brought the evidence, they took him from, when he sued him or went after him, to $450,000. But guess where he got him down to this year? Because he had that comp of a frozen property to $297,000 from $805,000. Now, isn't that ironic? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there?
Mayor, we need to move on from this.
Mr. Svensson, If you'll, Mr. Swenson, if you'll take your seat, please.
Mayor,
Yes. Yes, Mr. Gutwa?
will you like us to make a motion?
Sure.
Okay. I move that the council approve a resolution stating that the city's vote of no confidence in the Johnson County's appraisal district's chief appraiser.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve a resolution stating the city's vote of no confidence in the Johnson County Appraisal District's chief appraiser by Gutwa. Do we have a second, council? All right, motion failed for lack of a second.
Mayor, I'd like to table this until we can hear from the other side. I know there's always two sides to a story. There's been no one here from Mr. Hudspeth's side. This is a pretty significant allegation, if you ask me. So I personally like to see someone from Mr. Hudspeth's side, or himself preferably, come and make a presentation before I cast my vote.
Do you have any thoughts if he gets invited and does not attend? What
Well, certainly
that would be?
that will change my opinion.
Okay.
But I frankly don't know enough about the CAD board and the appraisal district. I've complained a time or two and gotten a little reduction and consider myself lucky and went on my merry way. So I know property values have gone up tremendously in this county and all across the state. And I know that but this presentation by Mr., the man from Denmark, I apologize, I don't know can't remember his name. I'm a numbers guy, and this is concerning. So I'd like someone from that department to come and explain why these numbers don't jive. So that's just my take.
All right, would you like to make a motion, Councilman?
I'd like to make a motion to table.
Second.
And that was to table, correct? Okay, we have a motion on the floor to table resolution stating the city's vote of no confidence in the Johnson County Appraisal District's chief appraiser by Foster and a second by Bells. Any further discussion on this motion?
I'd like to make a few comments, Mayor.
Go ahead, sir.
This is a highly contested issue, and I appreciate everybody that's come out tonight. And we've worked real hard here to push the fact that we listen to everybody. And when we're done, if the mayor allows it, we'd like to see anybody else that hasn't already spoken to speak. And we listened. I want to assure you that because I didn't second this just now, doesn't mean that I didn't hear you. We would like some more information. We would like to hear both sides of it. You've got to understand, this is the first some of us have heard of this. When our agenda came out, this is the first time we've heard of it. Now, are we ignorant? Are we living under a rock? No, but it's just not a task that we've taken on right now because we're trying to run this city and keep our bills paid. So if you'll give us the chance, as we've done, to table this thing, get some more information, and speak around to our constituents, I'd appreciate it.
And I'd just like to piggyback on that. I'd like to invite all of you back when Mr. Hudspeth or his representative either comes or doesn't come to have this same conversation. Just speaking for myself, I don't want to speak for the entire council, but for me personally.
Okay, Mayor, so are we tabling it until when? The next
Until
meeting?
Next meeting, I believe.
And based on the mayor of Burleson, we did hear that they have attempted several times to call him. He's not responsive. So if he doesn't come or show up in the next meeting, will you support this motion?
Well, I'm going to do some research between now and then. I'm not just going to wait for him to come. I'm also going to do some more research. So I'm not going to commit yea or nay at this point. I mean, I appreciate y'all coming and making your argument, but I will certainly, I'd like to meet with this gentleman right here. I'd like to have a cup of coffee with you.
Let me tell you, just give you information. The Denton CAD Board is under federal investigation and being sued. And just a week ago, the traveling judge heard the motion from the plaintiffs, and he ate out the CAD board for 15 minutes and passed the motion forward to the next appellate court. Now, Tarrant County, if you've heard, there's been 3 tax assessors fired. The one from Tarrant County is now in Hood County, and it'll be interesting to see how long he lasts. Now, they took it so serious up there that the 10% increase, they already voted and took it down to 5%. And I can give you some websites and information where you can go unbiased and listen. I have no hidden agenda. I can afford to pay my property taxes, even though they tripled. That property I paid $720,000 for, they valued it at $1.89 million. My renters, if I go up $500, will all have to move out. And you know where they're living now? Go to Cleburne and look at those hotels they built during the gas splurge, right? You can see low-income cars parked there, and they are renting hotel rooms for their families, and this is true. So I'll be glad to help you any way I can. I'm not against or for anyone. I'm for the low man on the totem pole who's getting abused and giving up.
Well,
I'm like,
and I think we're all for the low man on the totem pole, sir.
Oh, I didn't say you weren't. I said I am.
I know, but I just want to make that point, that just because we're not voting for this tonight, don't think we're just,
No, I don't.
okay.
I think it's fair to table it, but you all should ask yourselves very clearly. The fact that you don't know anything about the Central Appraisal District, and it's your responsibility to put people on the board, the fact that you don't know is telling. Is telling. The new Central Appraisal District Board of Directors is doing massive amount of outreach. Volunteers like you, 2 of them are here tonight. The guy that gets paid substantial amounts of money to run this and has been for a long time is not, to think that he didn't know about this, let's be realistic. The fact that you guys do not know this process is why there should be no confidence in his ability. This vote of no confidence is just saying that we are not comfortable with where this is at. And it implores the people that can do something about it to take it more seriously. The fact that you guys don't know about this, think about that. That's very, very, very scary, considering how big property taxes is in the state of Texas.
But that's why he tabled it, where we could get him in here to find out what's going on in front of you guys, if you understand what we're doing. Like we said, we're not against you. We all own homes here. My taxes went up way high. And do I like it? No. But I like to know the facts of the whole situation. And like they said, we appreciate you guys coming. But if we hear his side, that'll make a difference for, I think, every one of us up here. That's what the same thing I was going to say.
Mr. Badler, did you have a comment?
Sure, just for the record, it looks like there may be a CAD board meeting at the same time as.
I was going to say that August 15, I was going to ask Mr. Foster if he would amend his tabling of the issue until maybe the September 5th meeting, which would be our following one after that, because the CAD board will be meeting, so Mr. Husband wouldn't be able to attend.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. I'll like to table this motion until the September 5th
I'm going to be out of town.
council meeting.
All right, are we taking any more discussion from the audience, or are we going to go ahead and end it? I had a hand back up here. Is it okay if council? I know. All right, we'll give this gentleman one opportunity to come and speak, and then we'll.
Hello, my name is Joe Valdez, and I'm at 212 Shady Oak Road, Keene, Texas. First of all, this is my first time here. I'd like to know how many of you have ever had an appraiser go to your house and appraise your house, your property? Anybody? Anybody here? Yeah, but I mean, you know.
If you'll address the chair, Mr. Valdez.
I'm talking about an appraiser from the appraisal district. Anybody? Never? So how do you know that the value that they've given to your house is accurate in any way.
Mayor, under our rules, we're not supposed to answer, so
I
we need to
understand,
stop
yeah.
that question.
Yeah, we can listen to you, sir, but we can't answer your
Okay.
questions unless it's a
I
matter of
mean,
fact.
how do we know? They tell you, okay, we're following this code. Or when the appraiser comes in and say, well, they compare this house to that house to that house. But that house is not even the same, structure or anything. It doesn't have the same amount of land. It doesn't have the same kind of terrain. It's not in the same condition. It was not built at the same time. It's a lot older or newer than, my own present house. I mean, I moved here in 2003 to the area. And then I decided, okay, well, am I even going to stay here? So I decided to buy a house. Okay? The house that I bought, nobody wanted to buy it. They had put it up for sale, and then I talked to Dr. Reed, and he said, okay, we'll just make him an offer. It was a lot lower than what we had gone through, Fannie Mae as an appraisal. And said, okay, well, I'll buy the house. So I bought it, paid for it and everything. So far, it has gone up 3 times the value, or 56% from when I bought it. This is why I ask, do any of you know an appraiser that has, actually come to your house and said, okay, well, the reason that your house is valued at this price is because it has a pool, it has this nice landscape, it has so many rooms, so many square feet, and this is the reason it's at that value. But, the thing is, if we don't appeal, the value that they put on, I mean, because I've gone through the process, I've given them engineer reports, foundational reports, and all these things, but it doesn't do anything about it. I asked for information as to why is my house being valued at this price? And they declined to respond to that. I mean, they actually declined. They had about 8, 9 people there to talk to me, but they didn't. They didn't respond. They just gave me a piece of paper comparing my house to a few other houses, and that was it. And that was it. Well, this is it. And we declared that it was a justified appraisal. And I requested in writing that they give me a detailed information as to, why my house was appraised at that value, and they didn't. So, I mean, these are types of responses that people get when they do appeal, or they don't get a response at all. So, I mean, if you're gonna put yourself in that position where you're going to appeal, you might not get a response, or you may, but are you gonna be satisfied? I don't know.
Thank you,
So,
Mr. Valdez, we appreciate it.
Thank you. Mhm.
Thank you.
All right, council, we have a motion on the floor to table resolution stating the city's vote of no confidence in the Johnson County Appraisal District's chief appraiser until the September 5 council meeting by Foster. And Mr. Bells, if you'll amend your second to include that addition,
Yes.
and a second by Bells. All in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed? And those abstain? Motion is carried. All right, at this time, council, I'd like to go ahead and call a recess until 8:00 p.m. and have us reconvene, if there's no objections. All right, the council is in recess until 8:00. Huh? their seats. All right, it is 8:02 PM. I'm calling this meeting back into order. We are going to resume with our agenda item 4A, receive and discuss the city manager's report. Mr. Batla?
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council. I guess I'm getting a little bit of a complex. They're obviously not interested in listening to me. We cleared out quite a bit. So just to give you a brief update in the interest of time, I just want to remind you of Savor Keene on September 22, of our foodie festival. You've seen the pickleball courts going in. We're making progress on that. Our mobile messaging signs have been purchased, and we received those last week. Security cameras, they were here today installing and upgrading those systems at the park. And I met with our IT company yesterday to discuss getting our City Hall sign working. So we're going to tackle that one.
Okay, great.
We've fought through about 10 separate AC issues. So we've got that working pretty much everywhere in City Hall tonight, knock on wood, and several IT issues to get everything up and running or count. So got a lot going on, not to mention trying to create a almost $12 million budget. So that's the update on that item. Are there any
All right.
questions? Yes.
Council, do you have any questions?
Yeah, would you mind giving me the date and time again for that Savor Keene, please?
I don't have the time in front of me. It's September 22nd. Okay, there may not be a time set yet.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
whenever you're hungry. All right, any other questions for Mr. Batlow?
That's our foodie festival.
All right, thank you, Mr. Batlow. Moving on to agenda item number 4B, receive and discuss a presentation from Lockton on healthcare cost and options for fiscal year 2025.
Okay.
I'm sorry, sir, that you had to wait so long to this point.
Oh, happy to be here. Good evening. Good to see everyone again.
Well, I'll go ahead and tee it up. Good evening again, Mayor and Council. So you're going to see this, we're going to start with this slide. This is actually a slide from my budget presentation, but I think it's important to start off with this one. To move the budget process along, we need to start by tackling one of the most significant budget items, and that is health care benefits. Each year, we see a significant and, in my opinion, unsustainable cost increase. So this is not only a problem in Keene, but one that all cities are wrestling with. Mayor and Council, I have heard you in your desires to look into this. And I also learned a bit of a lesson last year in presenting an infinite amount of data and choices. So what I've done here is tried to compile all of that data into some options for you to look at to start this discussion. So if you have any questions, I'll go ahead and go through this one slide, and then I'll turn it over to Lockton, and you have in your packet their presentation, and we'll go from there. So our budget numbers, if you remember last council meeting, they didn't look too good. That's because we had built in a 20% increase in our initial health care cost. I have good news, really, really good news, that after kind of a competitive bidding process came down to 9% of an increase, okay? That's still $83,000 more than last year, but to keep the current plan as it is, it's a 9% increase. Okay, so you'll see our budget numbers went from the red to relatively healthy and allowed us to add back in some of those council priorities that we discussed much earlier. Option B, that is simply by switching companies from Blue Cross Blue Shield to United Healthcare. Again, this was kind of a competitive bidding process. They came back with a better bid. So that is they virtually mirrored our current plan that we have, and that is a savings year over year of $27,324 for a plan from United Healthcare that mirrors our current benefits. Now, I know you've wanted to look at other different options on, what can we do to tweak our current plan. Wanted to come to you with another option, as you asked for, and this one is tweaking the deductible from a $500, $1,500 deductible to $1,500 and $3,000. This raises the deductible for the employees. This is through United Healthcare, and by making that change, that's a $73,000 savings. So pretty significant on that. Obviously, I would love us to be able to keep our current level of benefits, but again, I've heard you want options. I would encourage council not to enact too draconian of measures. We've got pretty much low turnover now, and I think good morale, et cetera. So I'm presenting some options that I think for you to consider. Another option, though, that I would like for you to look at is whichever one of these you pick, I would love for our employees to have the ability to choose a high deductible health plan. And this is really rare, I think, win-win when it comes to talking about health care. Depending on where our employees are in life, in health, in family, etc., I wish, when I went into the fire service at 18 or 21, that I could have had a high deductible health plan when I started, when I was young and healthy and had $50,000 in an HSA account by now. Right? So this gives the employee an option of starting a health savings account and contributing to that account, which is a tax benefit. It also is a savings for the city. Every employee that chooses that plan, it's a savings for the city because the deductibles are considerably higher. There is an offset, a contribution offset that I would like to do to initially help with that. But this one, coupled with option C, would be $123,000 savings, which puts that money back on the bottom line. So with that, happy to take any questions, or I can turn it straight over to Lockton, and they can answer any additional, any of the deeper data questions. We've been crunching all kinds of numbers for quite a while now. Can I answer any of the high-level questions for you before we move on to the presentation?
You're saying on this one right here at the bottom, you said 3,500, 7,000 deductible?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And we
That's the
save
option
100.
to choose the high deductible health plan.
And we save 123,000?
Yes.
$102? Okay.
That's if roughly 20 or so of our
Correct.
employees choose that. So out of 53, we're taking our best guess on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll turn it.
Great. So kind of jumping into, we like to always tell the story of where the group's claims experience is, what we did in our marketing efforts, and then what our findings are. So when we're going through this, we went to market. We did a full market again with the medical coverage. United Healthcare came back very aggressive. They're very interested in taking on City of Keene and being a provider, obviously, or a carrier, obviously by the numbers that we were talking about. We did use that in our negotiations along with our book of business to help negotiate down the 19.9% increase from Blue Cross Blue Shield to that 9%. But Blue Cross Blue Shield's drawing a line in the sand on that. Both Cigna and Aetna were provided the RFP as well. So we went to all the major carriers. They declined to quote due to large claims and your overall loss ratio. The loss ratio for the last 12 months is we can round up here, right? 114%. So for every dollar that's being paid in premium to Blue Cross Blue Shield, they're paying out $1.14 in claims. So they're losing money on this. But that being said, I want to show this just so you can see why they're coming out the gate at that 19.9% increase. Aside from the 114% loss ratio, even though you're not 100% credible, I mean, we're talking about 50 employees, we're not talking about 1,000, 2,000, so they do weigh that against their overall book of business at Blue Cross Blue Shield. You're also looking at expecting around a 6 to 8% increase in just trend. So just what we're seeing year over year in increasing claims cost. There are some large claimants on here. Roughly 48% of the claim dollars that were paid out over the last 12 months were due to large claim activity. There's currently 4 large claimants on the plan. I will tell you, when you're looking at 48%, that's typical. Typically, large claim activity accounts for around 48% to 55% on a medical plan of overall claim activity. If I'm getting too into the weeds, please let me know. I really like to dig down into this stuff. What I would say is if you're running at a 48% overall claims for your high-cost claimants, you just have high utilization. That's where that's coming from to result in that 113% loss ratio for the last 12 months.
Are these single incidents, or are these ongoing?
That's an excellent question. The data that we receive from Blue Cross Blue Shield, it's regulated, so it's very limited. So what we're seeing right now is these 4 individuals are currently enrolled. As far as the status of that, and if they're ongoing, we do not know that. So I'm sure everyone can read this. I want to kind of jump through this real quick for you on a high level, but this is going to explain the slide that Brent went over before. If you don't mind, I'm going to jump ahead here to the medical plans here, because we can always go back to the financial summary if you want to look overall. So when we're looking at the medical plan, I think you all have a copy of this as well. The first column is your current plan. We didn't include the initial renewal of the 19.9%. We thought that'd be moot, so we're showing you the 9% that Blue Cross Blue Shield came in at that second column. The United Healthcare plan, matching as closely as apples to apples, is in the third column. The $1,500 PPO deductible plan is in the fourth column, and then the high deductible health plan is in the far right column. We did our best to try to show you the differences in these between what United Healthcare is quoting and Blue Cross Blue Shield is by trying to stoplight green light it, so it's just easier to catch what the takeaways are and what any kind of increase in benefits would be. One thing I also want to mention, though, is when we're looking at Blue Cross Blue Shield and we're comparing it to United Healthcare, some of the concerns are where we're changing networks, obviously. We're going from Blue Cross Blue Shield to United. Are we going to a lower tier network with less providers? That's not the case. So you're going from the largest Blue Cross Blue Shield PPO network to the largest United Healthcare PPO network. We did do an analysis and we ran a disruption report. 99.7% of providers that have been utilized in the last 12 months are in the United Healthcare network. So for the employees that are enrolled and the members as well, dependents, spouses, there's not going to be any disruption there. I believe that 0.3% was one provider, and that one provider had one visit over the last 12 months. So very low utilization on that member or that provider. Do you have any questions on this slide? I'm happy to dig into this a little bit more. I'm going to jump through the financial modeling here for cost share for the time being. I'm happy to jump back. I just kind of want to show the differences in the Blue Cross Blue Shield plans and the United Healthcare plans. And I know we've touched really on the medical now. So United Healthcare is quoting all of your lines. So you would essentially look at going from Blue Cross Blue Shield to United Healthcare. One of the benefits to that is we also negotiated, and it's already embedded within the United Healthcare premiums, around a 3.25% just for packaging in the United Healthcare lines. Because when we're looking at that, we got with United Healthcare, we said, hey, if they're gonna move everything, we need you guys to move the needle a little bit more. And we had that taken off of not the ancillary lines because there's not a lot of meat on those bones, but on the medical premiums. So when we're looking at this slide, we're showing the current dental plan, the renewal that was a 5% for Blue Cross Blue Shield. United Healthcare, their plans are quoting very close to what you have today. There's a little bit of a takeaway in the one plan where the deductible goes up, but the calendar year maximum on both of those plans increases. It is a 12% increase, but when you're looking at the dollar increase on the dental versus what you're getting from a discounting aspect on the medical, it easily washes out.
So are you saying that employees are $133 a month for dental?
The overall, excuse me, I'm trying to get used to this microphone. The overall premium is that's the gross premium. So that's before we look into the city of Keene's cost share versus what the employee pays. If you don't mind, I'd like to flip through it here because my eyes are not focusing on that.
And mine are barely focusing on what you provided us with here.
While he finds that, I do want to point out, we're getting this information to you pretty early, so we don't need to make a decision tonight. We just wanted to kind of run through this, give you the high level. Y'all digest it. One thing I would like for you to consider, though, is to get to, just kind of get your take on what direction you would like us to go so we can further develop the budget if you're leaning towards, one plan or another as we move forward. But you won't be given a pop quiz on this tonight or have to make any decisions based off all these numbers. Kind of like last year, there was a lot of numbers, and then it's like, okay, we need to know. So we're giving you plenty of time and running through the information. And I'm happy to meet also anytime if you need, want to go through any of that.
To answer your question, Mr. Foster, that $133, that's basically multiplying the premium times that enrolled employee amount. So the monthly rate today, if you're looking at the base plan in the first column, it's $11.09 on a monthly basis for an employee. It's just you multiply it times 12, that's where you get the 133.
And then what's the buy-up plan?
As far as plan design or cost?
Like, what's involved in that? What's included, I guess?
Oh, the difference between the buy-up plan and the base plan? Okay. So when you're looking at the bottom here, we got a plan summary. So we have the base plan in that first column. So there's a $25 deductible, $750 calendar year max. You also have your co-insurances as well. Under the buy-up plan, it's closer to more of a traditional dental plan that we typically see in about 90% of employers, where we see a $50 deductible and $1,500 calendar year maximum. So you're buying up for a little bit more coverage on the buy-up plan.
Okay.
And again, on the United Healthcare plan, you're looking at that $750 on the base plan going up to a $1,000 calendar year max, and then the buy-up going from $1,500 to a $2,000 calendar year max under the dental plan. So Blue Cross Blue Shield did provide City of Keene a rate pass on their vision coverage. I know we're not talking a lot of dollars here, but still, it all counts, right? United Healthcare is coming in at a 4.4% increase. That overall increase, dollar-wise, annually would be a $274 increase to the vision plan. On the group life insurance, United Healthcare did match the life insurance that Blue Cross Blue Shield has today. They actually came in a little lower by roughly sorry, my eyes aren't the way they were they used to be, $431. So a little bit of savings there. On the voluntary life and AD&D rates, just to go over that high level, because there's a lot of numbers on this page, they're matching the same rates that you have today. So essentially, there's not going to be any confusion as far as trying to figure out what you have from a payroll deduction. I know that's really getting into the weeds here on the lift from an administrative side, but what United Healthcare will also do is they're going to honor what anyone else has coverage today on their life insurance, and they'll grandfather them over, and they'll also allow those individuals that maybe don't have insurance today to elect up to guarantee issue amounts. So if they elect it, they're going to be able to elect up to a guarantee issue for themselves and their spouses. And they can also enroll their children. There's no guarantee issue or EOI for children.
Now, I have a question with that.
Yes.
Just say, for example, you say they match whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I work for TxDOT, and since my health ain't as good as it should be, I could only get 2% instead of the 4%. Does that make sense? Do they the same here? You understand what I'm saying?
I'm not following your benefit amount, but essentially, if whatever you have and you've received
Yes,
with
sir.
your current benefit, if you moved carriers, like in this instance, let's say you were given $200,000 in life insurance. You move from Blue Cross to United Healthcare, they would honor that $200,000. They're not going to ask you any medical questions. They would grandfather you over.
No, I'm only for 150, but that's why I was asking.
Okay.
Okay.
Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
On the short-term disability, United Healthcare does have a little bit of an increase here. This is 100% voluntary coverage for the employees. It's a small uptick. It's roughly, well, excuse me, I'm sorry, I was looking at the top number there. Let me go down to that percentage. So because these are age-banded, there's brackets for different age bands all across the board. When you tally up current enrollment under the plan with those individuals under the age, there's actually a decrement, but it's going to depend on the age of that individual, so it's going to vary across the board. And those are typically underwritten just from an overall book of business rate. From a life and disability perspective, there's really not a lot of credibility for a group until they hit around 500 lives on life and disability. And lastly, the long-term disability, there is quite an increase from a percentage standpoint moving to United Healthcare. Again, I would urge you to consider that 3.25% decrease additional on the medical premiums. It's a 27% increase on the long-term disability. However, overall, that's a $2,700 annual increase to the bottom line. The long-term disability is employer paid. It would essentially go from 10,000 to 12 or 13,000, yeah.
But the short-term disability is optional?
It is optional. It's voluntary.
Okay.
We always have a renewal timeline here. I'm happy to go through that. We are early, just as Brent said, so we have a little bit of time to make decisions. And I know I went through that relatively quickly. I'm happy to go back, go through any other things, answer any questions you have.
So, Mayor and Council, I do have that same slide that I started with in my budget presentation for 7A. And with that presentation, it shows the budgetary impacts of your decisions, what options you should choose. And if you want to discuss any other options, again, they're here to answer any of those questions.
Mayor, I've got a question. So I assume that you do this for other municipalities?
One other municipality, yes.
So or maybe you just know in the industry, is the $500 deductible or the $1,500 more common?
Well, I would go out further than municipalities on that and just tell you the $500 deductible is not very common anymore. It's kind of like what we said about 5 or 7 years ago when we used to say you don't see $250 deductibles anymore. That's where it's going now. You would typically see a $1,500 deductible be on the more of the buy-up end if you had more than one option on a PPO plan, yes.
And one question about the dependent coverage, is this still allowing for that like we've been doing in the past?
Dependent coverage under the medical plan?
Yes.
Yes, so,
It's still covering 80% for dependents, spouses and children?
regarding cost share?
Yeah.
I'd have to look at that, but we can always model that, but
Okay.
I think that was mirrored though, right?
yes, yeah, so I think we did the same percentage when we were
Was it
doing the modeling.
80% or 70%?
I
It's 70, isn't it? 70% on
don't
dependents?
know,
Any employees in the room?
70?
Okay.
Okay. I couldn't remember, but I know we had discussed at some point lowering that to 50% for the cost savings, yeah.
In conversation with the city manager this week, we discussed that, and his defense toward his employees was, we don't need to hammer all at one time. And there are some changes that we need to make, but maybe 10%, we can consider that or something, 10% or 15%. We've been arguing, not arguing, but going over these numbers for the past 6 years, and this dependent rate keeps coming up and keeps coming up. You know, I watch some reality shows, and the judges on these reality shows get down to some of the last people, and they say, somebody's got to go, and they're whining and crying, and they say, yeah, try to deal with the insurance with the city. It's just as bad. I mean, we love these employees, and they work for us, but we got to toe the line here and try to figure out where we need to be.
So, you know,
I think personally, 7%.
these decisions are ultimately up to council, but I would like to show you kind of the budget presentation, which, and the budgetary impacts of these that, you know, bring us into a pretty good position with, you know, either our current plan, with United Healthcare, or, you know, with the $1,500 deductible or the $500 deductible. I can show you those impacts. Again, I would not be in favor of going too draconian on changes, but again, we can dig and get any data you want. You want us to look at that? It's y'all's decision.
Are you planning on sharing that with us tonight under our budget item?
Yes.
The differences you're talking about, okay, so we can wait for that.
I'd like to mention one other item on United Healthcare, and I apologize I didn't put this, include this in the presentation, we're going through it, but we did negotiate a rate cap for the renewal, because typically when an insurance carrier is going to bid on you, they're trying to buy the business a little bit, and what we don't want to happen is next year come around, you get hit over the head with a giant renewal. So there is a rate cap that was negotiated with United Healthcare. I believe it's 9 or 9.9%. I don't know if Kristen can keep me honest. Okay.
So that's huge going into FY26 to be able to kind of have that in our back pocket.
And that doesn't keep you locked in. So if you're running phenomenally as far as claims experience goes, you have that 9%, that can still be negotiated. We can still go to market.
Go ahead, Mr.
So-
Foster.
Looking at the medical page,
Yes.
is the last column the health savings account?
That's the
option?
high deductible health plan that'd be eligible for the HSA, yes.
Okay.
And what I would tell you about that plan is that's probably one of the richer high deductible health plans just by design with IRS guidelines. I believe the minimum deductible for an embedded plan is $3,200. I think that's $3,500.
Yes.
Because they keep incrementally increasing that year over year. So what United Healthcare's done is they're bidding a $3,500 to keep it, that plan design unchanged for a couple of years before it reaches that.
All right, council, any other questions before we just move on? This is just a presentation, and we're going to go over it some more here in a minute. A couple of a couple agenda items up in the budget. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And again, I'm sorry you had to wait.
No, it's no problem.
All right, agenda item number 5, our public hearing was canceled. So we're moving on to agenda item number 6, consent agenda. Council, do you have any items that you would like to remove from consent agenda for further discussion? If not, I need a motion to pass the consent agenda to approve it.
I move the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented by Gutwa, seconded by Foster. All in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous. Motion is carried. Agenda item number 7A, review, discuss, and give direction on the fiscal year 2025 budget.
Okay, good evening again, Mayor and Council. So I would like to mention, just like I did with the healthcare benefits discussion, I'll keep the budget kind of at a high level tonight. We're still early into it. I'm pushing real hard, trying to get everything done that I can before Charles sails away into the sunset. But, so I'll keep that pretty high level as well and show you a pretty good difference from the last presentation, last council meeting. So last council meeting, you saw that we were in the red. So this is, the biggest change is from, again, our anticipated 20% healthcare increase in cost, which we originally built in, and being able to reduce that to, quote, only 9%. And it had a huge impact to the budget. Our tax numbers are in, some of our other things in the general fund. Some of the dust is settling and we're starting to get a clearer picture. So this is where we are at currently. And this is what is built in. Now, I had a little bit of a smaller list a couple weeks ago when we met, and this was taking the council directed some of your ideas, what you wanted to see put in budget, some of the things I wanted to see in budget. First one I'd like to draw your attention to that was not in my presentation last time is the ability to add $100,000 to the street rehabilitation fund. Again, because that number switched, so drastically. I think this is huge because we've all heard the citizens, y'all hear them, I hear them. We want to do something to start addressing the streets. Now, $100,000 won't even fix a quarter of a block, okay? But we're still starting somewhere. We're still starting a piggy bank. Per our policy, any end-of-year funds, we'll look at those to contribute to that piggy bank. We've got to start somewhere. So here's the start of that. In the previous council meeting, we addressed the hardware and software issues that we're taking care of with IT and our cybersecurity. We discussed the police officer half-year position, the PD parity pay with the fire department, the COLA raises. We discussed the finance department position, $47,000. And again, tonight we're beginning our discussions on our current healthcare benefit plan, which I will again show you kind of the options and the budgetary impact of those. What I was able to build back in were the two items here on the bottom, again with that significant savings, was the public safety step plan and $75,000 for the purchase of a fire department Tahoe replacement vehicle. We're still trying to see if we can possibly afford that this year, but we don't want to blow the budget, so we're going to have to wait until early September to try to make that decision. But if we can't afford that this year, we were able to build that into next year, and we always have time to change that. Okay?
Brent,
Yes,
Would you mind going back to the previous slide? So 103 was our surplus,
yes.
and then the items in blue here,
Those, I guess I didn't see the different colors on my
oh, okay.
monitor.
All right. So are any of these items built into that 103 or 104
This is what's
surplus?
built in. All of this is built in that leads to this number right here. This is accomplishing all of these items.
Really?
Yes, again,
Wow.
had,
Charles can't leave.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, pulled off some magic, so. So let me show you, here we are again, 103,760, and I'll show you what the budgetary impacts of your choices on healthcare do. Here's the slide I showed you during our discussion. Again, option A is to stick with our current plan. Okay? Option B is to switch to United Healthcare with a mirror plan. Option C is to switch to United Healthcare and raise the deductible. And you kind of have a value-added option to include a high deductible health plan, which employees can choose, and it, again, that's a money savings as well. Okay? So I'll show you these numbers. If you go with option B, you see this number, 131,084. Okay? Option C, which is that higher deductible, adds a little bit more to the bottom line of the budget. Not significant, but adds a little bit more to the bottom line, 177,099. And then option C plus with the high deductible is somewhere in the neighborhood of 204,000, again, depending on how many employees would want to go onto the high deductible health plan. Okay? Yes.
On the option now, would some employees be able to choose this, and then what would they then choose the other plan, whatever?
They would choose either or. They could choose
Either
their
or.
PPO
Okay.
or their high deductible health plan. Okay? All right, so that
And then, just real quick, how much of a bonus or what was our part to contribute to the HSA?
that would be $1,500.
$1,500?
Yes. Per person.
And their deductible was $3,500 if I'm right?
500.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so anyway, you see, every decision we make regarding healthcare does have a pretty big impact at the bottom line. And so, again, this is just showing you that impact. Okay? All right, well, let me switch over to the water sewer fund side. And this one, I'm happy to report, is pretty healthy this year. Okay, right now, we're at 521,000 in the positive on that. Now, there is a method to the madness on that amount. We have that iceberg ahead that I've showed you eventually with our sewer plant. So trying to put money into the piggy bank to help offset that when that time comes. Even if we put 500,000 a year for the next 10 years, we're only a quarter of the way there. So, but just like streets, just like eating an elephant, one bite at a time. So this fund is relatively healthy, and there's not a whole lot of changes to this fund other than the annual COLA and the $35,000 lease purchase. I believe that's a 4-year lease purchase of a backhoe. We have one backhoe with a issue, good time to replace. And again, you see there's not many items on this budget right here.
I got a question.
Yes.
On this lease, backhoe, correct?
Yes, lease purchase.
You said 4 years.
Yes.
In 4 years, can you buy that one?
Yes.
Okay, because you could buy a new one for about that price.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, the lease
they didn't go up that
purchase
much
allows us to not have to fork out that money
at
right up
once,
front.
yeah. But that's a good idea because they cost about that much, a little bit more now.
Yeah, it's a pretty good option for a
Yeah,
major
that's a real
piece of
good,
equipment.
yeah, I agree with that.
Yep. So, again, I kept it pretty high level. You just got your budget books this week. So we're prepared, staff is prepared, finance, myself, to speak to any of the items presented, anything in the budget books. But you just got them this week, and they're 200 and some pages. So we figured we'd give you plenty of time. August 15th, we have another budget meeting. We can dig down into the weeds, like answer any questions that may come up. But that is pretty much our overall priorities as I understood them from council on the general fund and the water sewer fund. You know, we've met with A and B and kind of gotten their wish list. We've got some projects we would like to tackle this next year. So are there any questions I can answer?
Are you going to cut your check if we don't give them a good one?
That's right.
Okay, just checking.
All right, council, you want to go ahead and just move on to the next agenda item, and let's read the book, study them. We've got 2 weeks. We'll come back prepared with any questions we might have then after we've thought this through some more and considered the insurance plans. Okay, let's move on to agenda item number 7B, review, discuss, and consider an ordinance calling a general election to elect the offices of mayor, a city council member for Ward 2, a city council member for Place 1, and a city council member for Place 3, and calling a special election on 10 proposed home rule charter amendments, both of which will take place on November 5, 2024.
Mayor, I move to approve the motion as read.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve the motion as read by Foster and a second by Bells. Any further discussion on this motion?
Mayor, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Maybe the attorney can help us with this question. Out of the special election on 10 proposed home rule charter amendments that are going to be on the ballot, there's one proposition that requires a recall. And I know most cities will normally pass this resolution and also rerun resolution if you have a rerun. So in our case, if the rerun comes, if it was to pass, for example, is just a scenario, is this supposed to be effective for this year? Or maybe next year?
Is the question of when will these charter amendments become effective?
Yeah.
Especially the rerun, because most cities will pass a resolution for the elections, and then they'll also pass another one on a separate line for rerun.
The runoff.
To allow the budget.
No.
He's talking about the runoff
no,
election.
the runoff would not, once the election takes place, you will canvass them and then figure out what charter amendments, if any, pass. And then once it's canvassed, then you'll pass an ordinance that will, in essence, accept the new revised charter. But as far as anything related to election like that, I mean, those charter amendments, they won't apply retroactively. In other words, you still have all your elections based on your current law. Next November would be the first time you would have your system changed so that you would have to have potentially a runoff if someone didn't get more than 50% of the vote.
Okay. I asked that question because of the budget, because if it was to happen this year, then we have to also apply the runoff for the sake of budget. Thank you.
It would not apply to any election that takes place in November. It would apply future elections.
Thank you for your clarification. Thank you.
All right, any other questions on this motion? We have a motion to approve the draft ordinance as presented by Foster and a second by Bells. All in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous, motion is carried. All right, we have already discussed agenda item number 7C, so we are going to move on to agenda item 8, executive session. Pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551, Texas Government Code, the city council may convene into executive session at any time during the meeting. The need arises for the city council to seek advice from the city attorney as to any posted item and by the following authority. A, Section 551.074, Personnel Matters, City Secretary Certification. And B, Section 551.087, Deliberation regarding economic development negotiations, economic development incentive, and performance agreement for Tractor Supply Development. Council, do we need the city secretary to join us for the first agenda item in there? And then do you need the attorney for the first item or the second only?
Probably the second.
Just for the second only? Okay, we'll come back and get you, Mr. Brown, in just a moment. All right, it is 8:46 PM. We're going to adjourn into executive session, or convene into executive session.
I do have one thing real quick.
Okay.
I did receive some information that, for Councilman Foster, the Savor Keene is 11-2. Oh, thank you. And one other thing, I apologize. I recognize Charles, but I'd also like to recognize Dinah for her very hard work in creating this budget, pushing very hard, and the fiscally prudent submissions by all the directors.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bala. Okay, it's 8:47 PM now. We're going to adjourn, convene into executive session. 2 p.m., I'm going to reconvene the council into open session. No action will be taken. Oh, I'm sorry, we do have action to be taken. Council, do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve deliberation regarding economic development negotiations.
Second.
All right, we motion to approve the economic development negotiations by Foster and a second by Bells. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous, motion is carried. Agenda item number 10, request for future agenda items. Council, do you have anything else that you would like to see on the future agenda items?
You know,
Yes.
excuse me, we've talked about it before, the short-term rentals like Airbnb houses in Keene. I think we maybe need to look at that, maybe.
Okay, what in particular did you want to, you just want us to
Well,
discuss it?
You know, I think it would be a good thing if, before we probably don't have, maybe not even a half a dozen, but I know there are some people that rent their houses for the weekend or something, and I think we need to maybe have a registration, just so the city, maybe the police will be aware of those type things.
Yeah, there's a lot of litigation going on right now on short-term rentals, and cities are trying to do it, and the legislature kind of punted on it last time, but it is a timely topic that a lot of folks are bringing it. You know, my thought would be to, if you put on your agenda, probably have your city attorney, Pat, kind of provide you information. There's lots of it out there from TML on short-term rental regulation, and if not, I've got 2 or 3 papers that I can send.
Yeah, in Horseshoe Bay, we were probably the short-term rental capital of it. So we went through all of that, and there is a lot of moving parts as far as, you know, who are you going to have regulate, you know, that list and make sure, you know, there's several things.
Maybe we should just leave it alone.
Yeah, we can bring that.
Maybe after budget, yeah, let's just drop that.
Okay, we'll push that back. Any other items, council, for future items on the agenda?
Yeah, I'd like to invite the chief appraiser to our next council meeting, or
No,
the following.
it was
the
going
one
to
in
be, September 5.
But
Yeah,
let's
just
get
a
the
reminder
invitation.
that the vote of no confidence against the chief appraiser item will be moved to to September 5.
But let's invite him now.
Oh, and invite him. Okay.
Okay, Mayor, this is just a question for the city manager. Have you received any application for finance director?
We have received a few.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else, council? 9:25, meeting is adjourned.